Greetings to all you crypto warriors around the world. This is Proof of Pod, Episode 7.
Crypto in the air, no sponsors in sight. The proof is all you need to join the digital fight.
All right, we have a special topic hot in the news right now. But first, a quick programming note. This show was launched with the sponsorship of Lithium and my co-host Clay. But we have since parted ways. So with all apologies to Ernie Johnson, Proof of Pod is now unsullied by sponsorship since 2024. Today's special guest is William Suttana, sex and psychology influencer, and he's going to be our guide in the world of the manosphere. William, how are you doing?
I'm doing real good. I want to start talking about Andrew Tate for your audience here.
It's very good. So the big news is that he has declared that he is trying to get out of the traditional fiat banking system and put $100 million into Bitcoin.
Yes.
So yeah, let's we're going to start with you kind of enlightening me and the audience about Andrew Tate. And I'm going to try and connect that to the Bitcoin world and this announcement that he's made.
All right, cool. So I'm going to play the game that the person's coming to Andrew Tate with a blank slate.
Yes, very good.
So how I got introduced to Andrew Tate was I used to have a job driving trucks for delivering auto parts, and I would listen to different podcasts while I was driving. And Andrew Tate, he's a big part of the manosphere, but he wasn't as big as he is now. But I thought his videos were very funny, and he talked about how he wouldn't do CPR on a fat guy, he wouldn't do CPR on a hot female, how eating pussy is gay, and all this kind of stuff. I thought it was hilarious. You know,
he wouldn't do CPR on a hot female?
Yeah, because he said only on a hot female he do CPR. I thought that was
only on a hot female.
I thought that was funny. I mean, and he would brag about his cars and just show off, and I thought it was pure fun. And so on that level, I thought he was a very entertaining guy. I didn't really take him seriously as like a philosophy of life guru in any way.
What is the manosphere?
I understand it as basically the male produced, male centered social media.
Okay.
Especially on YouTube and different forums, but especially on YouTube now. So like all these channels that are made by men, primarily made by men, and you know, trying to focus on men's, like, you know, issues they face, the lifestyle, money, sex, all that kind of stuff.
So somebody might say, you know, like media is already focused on men. It's focused on the male gaze is a phrase. So how does the manosphere differ from that?
I guess it's hyper focused, and it's kind of more bottom up. It's kind of more bottom up. So I mean, like, it's very, very ordinary guys. It's like barbershop talk. I mean, like, it's not. I would say it's more bottom up, just regular guys becoming influencers and just saying what they think of different things. And it's not that you could say it's non-hegemonic masculinity. It's from voices you wouldn't normally hear in terms of socioeconomic status and perspectives and all this kind of stuff. Like you might have like a guy who owns a coffee shop or a guy who just, you know, works at a warehouse. It's very ordinary people producing the content.
Would you say it's a reaction to perceived encroachment by feminism and that kind of thing?
It often is. I mean, that's definitely where a lot of the biggest channels are often about, or were about, in the manosphere spaces. Like there's a big focus on, you know, sexual psychology and philosophy of life. So, you know, like Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate is probably like, I would say definitely the top 5. I mean, of all the channels right now in that space. Our top 5 influencers, his channels are gone. So at some point, I think last year, year before that, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook took out all his channels. He has no channels of his own on those platforms.
Right.
Just he appears so much on other people's podcasts that he effectively has a channel without having a channel on those.
Right. Okay, so I interrupted you a little bit. You were talking about how his bombastic approach entertained you.
Oh yeah, I thought it was hilarious. I was like, I just saw it as entertainment. I'll listen to him. He's like, I'm James Bond, all kind of stuff. I just show off his cars and lifestyle. He's like, look at these restaurants I go to, and I have 7 girlfriends. I thought it was just funny. I mean, I did not perceive him as a spiritual or lifestyle or guru of any kind, at least not to me. But I mean, I understood that probably some people would take it that way, but that's really where I became critical because of that. People taking it too seriously. I thought like even how he posts a lot of stuff is kind of crazy. I'm like, the most outlandish stuff he said before, but I just kind of took it as just hilarious. I mean, like a stand-up bit versus like, this is something you should take really super seriously and like this should really guide your life or something like that.
Right. It reminds me a little bit of Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports.
I'm not familiar with him, but I mean, on the money side, so his YouTube channel, so he used to be in kickboxing.
Yeah.
And what he said was, hey, I made like, 6 figures in kickboxing, but I had to pay out my coach, had to pay out my team, and I only made like, I was basically upper middle class, kind of poor being a kickboxer. But he said he quit kickboxing because he wasn't going to make the kind of money he wants to make to have the lifestyle he wanted to have. So he said that like, I need to find a way to make 30 to 40K a month to like really live like the life I want to live. He wanted to live like a lavish, luxurious lifestyle. And so he's researching different ways to make money. He's like, I'm smart. I can work hard. I need to find a way to make money. And so he said, what do I know to make money? So he like list of all his skills. He's like, I'm charismatic. People like this kind of stuff. And he said he was on some website and he stumbled across an ad for a webcam, ad. And he's like, wait a minute. I have like 7 girlfriends. Girls live with me. I could probably get some girls to do that, and I could, take my cut off the top. And so he had like 4. He was dating like 4 different girls at the time. He told them like, hey, I want to start a business, and just come to my place. We'll talk about it. And then the girls were like, they all came to his house. He was like, wait, who are these other women? They're like, oh, you're all my girlfriends. And so he said 2 of them left, but 2 of them stayed, and he started his webcam business from that. And
so did he start that business before he gained fame as a social media personality, or?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's how he built
it.
That's how he built up the money. So like on YouTube, he's like, oh, I got like 20 cars and this big mansion. That's how he got it, was from the webcam business. A big part of it was like stringing guys along. So, making the guys fall in love and think they're going to meet the girl. And he gave an example of, you're talking to this girl on webcam for months, and you're like, hey, I want to see you. And so it's like, oh, I need 10K for my visa. And then I need I need a lawyer to help fix my papers. I need another 10K. Like they keep stringing them along and never meeting the guy, and that's kind of that milk come in. What Tate said was that the girls weren't good at finessing guys and weren't good at like talking the talk to get the guys pulled in. So he would have the girl on the screen, but he would type a lot of stuff out himself, and his brother would do the same thing. And a big part was like, he's like, well, I need more girls to do this. So part of what he admitted to this, he would say he would try to get girls to fall in love with him by different ways, have good sex, and get them to get into his business.
Yeah.
And so he used, he sexually manipulated the sexual manipulators, essentially. And then
So the guys that are like ponying up all this money for the webcam models, are they simps? This is a term I hear.
That's what he said. He said, they're beta males, or they don't get attention, and they're unattractive, and they're putting them on a pedestal.
So is there like a conflict where he's like kind of like a male icon, but he admits to taking advantage of men? Or is it okay because they're simps and they don't deserve to hold on to their money, or what? I
think it's a combination. So it's like, hey, it's like if you're on that level, it's your fault for being on that level. But if you want to level up, I got my universe right here. I can help you out. There is kind of this dichotomy. So when Ben Shapiro made a video about him recently, and he was basically like saying like, you're a hypocrite because you're saying you're about traditional values and religion, but you're basically like a porn pimp online. Like how do you reconcile those two? And that, admittedly is a decent question. He had like 75 different cam girls working at once, and he had them living in like 5 different houses he was renting out. Okay.
And so, was this all in one country?
I think it was all in Romania. Yeah. So he's in Romania now. So he's
what's his connection to Romania? Is he of Romanian descent, or did he just go there like find easy to manipulate cat models or what?
He said that like so he was born in Washington D.C. I mean, yeah, I think he lived in England most of his life, but he's in Romania because he says like the laws are favorable and like it's semi-economically advantageous to be there. So he moved there, and that's where he's at now. And he's awaiting trial. So he was arrested. They took his assets, and they're like, well, you just have to stay in the country till your trial takes place. And he has some pending charges in England, but Romania said that the English can have him once we're done with him. So like once he completes his Romanian trial, assuming that goes whatever, then the English people could take him over there to whatever his charges in England.
Okay, so I read the Romanians seized, I believe, 9.6 million in assets.
Yes, yeah, that's what they said. Yeah, which is kind of wild, but
yeah, and I assume that's a big part of what is spurring on this idea of switching to Bitcoin. In fact, let me just read this tweet, May 15th, 2024. I know I'm not supposed to do this. This is Andrew Tate on Twitter. I know I'm not supposed to do this in chaotic times, but I'm about to leave fiat completely and ape over 100 million into Bitcoin. I'll even prove I did it. I'm done with the banks. I'm done with their money. Done with the scams. Then I'm going boating. So this is about 2 days old. It's got 2.5 million views already.
I mean, it's got me wanting to buy Bitcoin. I don't own any Bitcoin at all. I don't even know how to get it. But I'm thinking like, wow, I read that tweet. I was like, holy shit, maybe I should get some.
Yeah. Right. So that's kind of how like it crosses over into a realm where I'd want to talk about it on this podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. So where you left off the story, he had assets seized by Romania and was jailed, I think, for like 3 months, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And the charges against him are forcing women to do the webcam stuff?
Yeah, basically. So he definitely did. He says I did the webcam stuff. He's like, hey, they could leave at any time. But they're saying we couldn't leave at any time. So it's the nature of the work conditions that's disputed. So like, did he intimidate them? Did he physically abuse them? Like, what was the nature of the relationship with those workers? And that's kind of what caused the issue.
Yeah. And he's in trouble in England for, well, I saw he had at least one rape charge against him, but
yeah,
is that what he's currently
with? Yeah. I mean, it's bad. I mean, it's definitely, I'm agnostic as to what actually happened, but I mean, it definitely doesn't look good. I mean, it does not look good right now.
Okay. And his idea is that like, this is like the system or the matrix working against him. And
that's what he's saying. Yeah. Because he's like, he said he's God's chosen vessel to deliver a message and like lead people to righteousness. He said he's all that stuff. Like, so he converted Islam to as part of this whole thing. Yeah.
He converted in Islam?
Yeah. He's allegedly he's a man of God now and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't even know what to make of that. I don't know if it's a marketing move or it's genuine or not, but I mean, that's his current platform is that he's a man of God and trying to lead people to do the right thing. And these powerful people trying to take him out. And this is just a big ruse or something.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So you say that you are not particularly familiar with Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff, right?
Zero from like nothing. Like, so I was even like, I saw him talking about it in Tate's forum when I was in it. I was praying there for like 3 or 4 months, and I was like, they're like, oh, I bought this and this and that. I'm thinking like, I don't really understand. Maybe I'll look into it later, but I didn't really follow it. So I don't own any Bitcoin now. I've never bought any or sold any or anything.
So do you have any questions about it?
I got tons of. I mean, how do you? I mean, I don't know anything about it. I just know like it's a big thing where the government wants to tax it and they're having trouble figuring out what the hell's going on with it. That's the only thing I know. But I'm like, how do you even get it? Like,
yeah, it's been a default question on the IRS federal tax forms for maybe 3 years now. Like, do you own any cryptocurrency? Have you traded any cryptocurrency? Something like that.
So my question is like, if I see Andrew Tate's getting 100 million in Bitcoin and I'm like, oh, I want to get on that. How do I even do it?
Yeah. Well, you're in the United States, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, yeah, let's first talk about how somebody who's like completely new to Bitcoin might get involved. Um, Probably the easiest on ramp is a company called Coinbase in the United States.
Bring that down.
Yeah. And, you can transfer money from your bank account, whatever. They're fully like approved. I suppose they have a little bit of a contentious relationship with the government, but I mean, like they're operating completely legally and just, they have a little bit of battles about like how the regulation is going to affect them. So pretty simple. You want to keep an eye on like what kind of fees that they're charging you. You usually save money by kind of going into the trading interface and like putting in a bid instead of just like using their quick and easy interface, which charges you additional fees. To kind of relate it back to Andrew Tate and his idea of like preserving his assets, somebody might say hiding his assets. Coinbase, as like a fully legally operating entity, they are at the mercy of the U.S. federal government. If the federal government asks Coinbase, hey, please give us all the information on everybody who's ever bought Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency from you, and anybody who's withdrawn cryptocurrency from you, Coinbase will give them that information. I don't know to the extent that they have done that, or but it's just they don't have much choice. They can fight it, in the courts and whatever, and maybe they can prevail. But if the courts rule against them, they could either completely shut down, which would be pretty irresponsible, or they can hand over all the information that they have and violate everybody's privacy, which is kind of a different kind of irresponsibility, maybe. But you just need to understand that when you get involved with Coinbase is that the government has leverage over them, just like they have leverage over you and me. If we're accused of a crime, they could come grab us. They could take our house, take what's in our bank, and whatever. Okay.
So, Mike, so if I have $100, and I want to make it get to Bitcoin, I should go to Coinbase.
Yeah. Then you can leave it on Coinbase, which means they are in custody of it. And again, kind of the topic of the show is how to avoid having your finances confiscated. As long as it is with Coinbase, the federal government could say, hey, David Medley is accused of such and such crime. Turn over to us all assets that you are holding for David Medley. And Coinbase will comply. I mean, it's very unlikely that they would even fight that in court. Yeah. That's just how it goes. Just the same as banks. So, one step beyond holding your coins with Coinbase is to self-custody. And there are a lot of different tools and a lot of different levels of privacy and security that you can get for that. But the base of it is that every Bitcoin address, sometimes called wallet, it's your public key in a cryptographic sense. And there is a private key, which is like your password. And you can give anyone your public key, and they can send you Bitcoin, etc. But it doesn't give them access to spend your Bitcoin. Your private key is your password that enables you to spend the Bitcoin. So the security of cryptocurrency is quite a bit different than a traditional bank. The traditional bank is safe in a lot of ways and unsafe in some ways, and the cryptocurrency is safe in a lot of ways and unsafe in some other ways. One way that cryptocurrency is not safe is if you lose your private key and all your backups, there is no one that can recover it for you.
Shit. I'll do it.
Similarly, if it's somehow stolen from you, or if you send it to somebody and they don't send you whatever product it is that you bought, you can't like do a chargeback like you might on a credit card and say, "Hey, I didn't get this. Please, reverse this charge." But on the plus side, the government or whomever can't just send a notice to the Bitcoin bank and say, hand over everything that you have for David Medley because he owes taxes or a judgment has been filed against him or whatever. Without the private key, no one can move your Bitcoin. No one can touch it. To again tie it back to Andrew Tate, if he has, let's say, 100 million liquid, and he wants to buy a bunch of Bitcoin with it, it's not going to be private. It's not going to be a secret. Okay. If he has 100 million in some Romanian bank and he transfers it to some crypto exchange, there's going to be a record of that. And then when he buys the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency on the exchange, there's going to be a record of that. And when he transfers it off the exchange, there are some decentralized exchanges, but in the main, this is how it'll go. When he transfers his Bitcoin off of that exchange, there's going to be a record of that. The exchange and probably whatever governments that exchange is beholden to will know where his $100 million came from, when it got to their exchange, what he bought with it, and where it went after that. Bitcoin is what's called a public ledger. So what Bitcoin is in what address is public for everyone to see. And then finally, there are privacy solutions for Bitcoin. CoinJoin is a big one. Yeah. There's recently been some legal trouble for providers of CoinJoin services here in the United States as well. But it's a way to mix up the Bitcoin so that the anonymity, it's called really pseudonymity, is preserved, right? So everyone can see what coins are in what public addresses. However, there's not a name or a social security number or anything like that attached to it. So you can look and you can make some inferences about who has spent what.
Oh my God.
But there's, again, it's differing levels of privacy depending on how you got the Bitcoin and how you're spending it and who knows what, if you own this address or that address. So a mixing service like CoinJoin is very good for someone like me. If I wanted to maintain privacy, if I felt like I didn't have enough privacy already, and it kind of like bundles a bunch of transactions together, and then it disguises, who sent what and where everything went. But if somebody buys $100 million worth of Bitcoin, it's going to be very hard to mix that up and confuse about like how much Bitcoin you actually have. For instance, if you somehow took $100 million in cash out of a bank in the United States, like even if, presuming that, the bills aren't marked or whatever, and they're not following the serial numbers or anything like that, it's still like if the IRS comes to your door and they're like, "Hey, you owe us $10 million, right?" You're not going to be able to say, "Oh, I don't have it." And they're going to be like, "Okay, but you just took $100 million in cash recently. Where did that go?" And if you're going to be like, "Oh yeah, I lost it. It flew out my window of my car or something," right? Like, they're not going to accept that, right? You're going to be kind of guilty until proven innocent, right? And they might just, jail you for a long time. And then maybe you could come out on the other side of jail and access that, $100 million of cash or Bitcoin or whatever. They're still going to be keeping an eye on you, I assure you. If Andrew Tate puts $100 million into Bitcoin, that will protect that $100 million to the extent that it can't be taken from him without his private keys, his passwords, if you will. But it will not protect him in that they can still seize his body and imprison him, right? And so we opened the show kind of saying like that, what, $100,000 or something like that had been in Bitcoin had been seized from him. So there's a few ways that could happen. One is it could just be like on a. It's not typical that you're like punching in your private key on your keyboard like you might do a password, right? I think at the most basic level, it's like a 30 character string, is your private key. Okay. But the way that it's usually stored is instead in a 12 word sequence. And each of those words represents like 10 bits or something like that. So you wind up with this 12 word sequence, and that translates, through the computer through some conventions that have been made around this into your private key. So all they have to do is walk into his house and find where he's written down his 12 word seed phrase, it's called. And then presuming they have any understanding of cryptocurrency at all, they would say, hey, okay, this is probably a seed phrase for his cryptocurrency. And then they could just take it using that. Yeah. The private keys for Bitcoin are too long and random to really memorize. So they're typically written down in various ways. Now, again, there's ways to get around that. Okay. So my cryptocurrency is stored in a couple ways. I have a Trezor wallet. It's this little USB device, and that's aided by a PIN. So I have a PIN that I enter in, and without this device and the PIN, you cannot move my Bitcoin. Okay. Now, if I lose that device, because the Bitcoin isn't really stored on there, okay, just the password is stored on it. Okay. The private keys, the cryptocurrency password is stored on this device. People often say, "Oh, I have Bitcoin on my wallet." Well, no, you don't. You have the passwords that allow you to access your Bitcoin on the wallet. Anyway, and then we have like this through the magic of encryption that I don't really understand, to be honest. There's we have 3 of 5 protected seed phrases. Okay, so on 5 index cards, we've got a bunch of seed phrases. And if you get 3 of these cards together, you can access all my Bitcoin. But with 1 or 2, you cannot. So we distribute these around different places, right? So if Andrew Tate does a similar, 3 of 5 kind of thing, it would be very hard for anybody to steal that from him without, help from the people or places that he has distributed those seed phrases. So I don't know how much all that really helped, but those are some of the core technologies involved in what someone like Andrew Tate might be thinking about.
There's 2 things I wanted to say. So the first thing was that, so I was listening to a live stream he did a couple of years ago before his channel got taken down, and someone asked him about buying gold, and he basically was like, well, I have all this money. So he basically said that he shuffles where he puts his money around all the time. So he'll pull out in gold, he'll change currencies because he says the value fluctuates. So he didn't really have like one currency or one way of storing money. He like told a lot. He said he liked to diversify it.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, if I had $100 million, I would diversify too.
Yeah, so he was always like playing around with where he put the money. And the second thing was like, I mean, he's known that the police would probably come for a while, so he had time to develop a strategy of like how much he was going to try to like hide the money or where he's going to put it. I mean, my theory is he just like probably gave away a certain amount of Bitcoin just to make him happy. He probably hit the rest somewhere else. I mean, it's probably was.
Yeah.
Well, you can have that, and that's all. He just says that's all I got. He's probably got the rest somewhere else. That's what I would think he would do. If you knew the police were coming probably like 6 months in advance, like they're probably going to come. Like you develop a plan of like, okay, what am I going to do when the police knock on the door? I mean, so that's assuming that's what he did.
Yeah, it depends partly as far as the Bitcoin side goes, depends partly on how savvy he is, you know. Probably millions of Bitcoin, hundreds of billions of dollars now, have just been lost. A lot because like something like 10 million Bitcoin were created and handed out in the first 4 years when it really didn't have much or any value. So people were just like, oh, I'm switching computers. I didn't move my Bitcoin, which it's not really Bitcoin, but it's the private keys. But I didn't move my Bitcoin from my old computer to my new computer. There's kind of a famous case, I think it's in England, where a guy keeps trying to keeps trying to offer the city like a $10 million bounty, something like this, if they help him find his hard drive that has, you know, tons and tons of millions or maybe billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin on it that he threw away, you know, 10 years ago. Okay, so that's kind of covering Andrew Tate and Bitcoin and what that might entail with his security concerns. What do you think, having some familiarity with the community, if Andrew Tate continues on this path of saying like, oh, Bitcoin is the way to, like, you know, avoid having your money taken away by like false rape accusations and stuff, how much influence do you think that might carry with his followers?
Extremely disproportionate influence, like once in a lifetime kind of influence, because I mean he's got like 9 million followers on Twitter, there's like 200,000 people in his forum, whatever, and like you can pay for people exchange Bitcoin in that community all the time. So like I said, there's people making connections and saying, "Oh, I'll send you this and that." With people inside of his community, people are doing Bitcoin or cryptocurrency transactions all the time.
Yeah,
like, that's actually what they encourage. I mean, this was like I was in there a couple of years ago. They encourage you to do that then. So I can only imagine now it's probably like 10 times that.
Right.
I mean, this is gonna be huge. I mean,
and you said he has some kind of like university.
Yeah. So it used to be called Hustlers University. Now it's called the Real World. But it's supposed to be to kind of make money. So they have different sections like, oh, here's how to copyright, here's how to sell e-commerce, and there's a cryptocurrency section. I have no idea what the quality of the content is in that section, but you know, allegedly they're teaching you they're showing you the ropes of crypto. I mean, it is probably one of the biggest cryptocurrency discussion forums that exist currently. It's got to be, because there's so many people in there. I mean, it's got to be one of the biggest cryptocurrency discussion forums that's ever that exists anywhere. It's got to be.
Yeah,
like he's been building a community for like years now, and it's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, even if like, I mean, I'm not saying to go in there. I mean, I would definitely try to start discussions there, because it's a hot topic, and I can only imagine what kind of discussions they're having there right now. I mean, it's got to be huge. And I think a lot of people are going to follow him. Like, it's not just, I mean, him announcing that move, and with the community he's got, it's going to be like a big rush. It's going to be huge, like probably the biggest in the maybe of all time. I don't know. It's going to be so many people. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like Bitcoin is already seen to be kind of aligned with the right in the United States, and things like this might continue to push it that way. I see Bitcoin as allied with freedom, which I don't see politics so much in left and right. I don't think those things matter. They don't matter to me much. I see politics in terms of like freedom and tyranny. But I hope that, well, see, I guess there's different things. I hope that Bitcoin doesn't fall on one side or the other, but at the same time, if it became kind of like acceptable within the right, I guess that's better than it not being acceptable at all. So maybe we could start there. Certainly the adoption is continuing to grow, which I'm always in favor of. Well,
I mean, I used to sell solar panels, whatever, and basically the right people around be like, oh, I can get off the grid from the government, independent, and the left people like, oh, I can save the environment. So like, there's an appeal to both sides.
Yeah.
So like, cryptocurrency is very similar. It's kind of like there's benefits to it no matter what your ideology is. You just frame it somewhat differently.
Yeah. Another thing that cryptocurrency technology is similar to Bitcoin are enabling is like censorship resistant platforms.
Yeah.
I think that Twitter in the Elon Musk era maybe has dampened the enthusiasm for this kind of thing, right? Because he's trying to be very pro free speech as well. But a system called Nostr is getting very popular, and there's nobody in charge of it, right? It just like there's nobody in charge of Bitcoin. There's no CEO at Nostr who can say like, "Oh, I don't approve this content, so I'm going to shut down their account." So, be interesting to see, you know, if Andrew Tate or his followers become big proponents of decentralized content as well, because while Twitter, like I say, I think Twitter's a safe space for him for now. There's only so much you can do, and maybe some of the other
there's also Rumble.
platforms.
There's also Rumble. So he was pushing Rumble like even a long time ago. He's like, hey, this is like they don't censor us here. We can say whatever we want. People should go versus YouTube. So he was pushing Rumble as like a free speech haven, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe Rumble is still centralized, so a change in their policies could still result in him or anybody else being banned. Twitter as well. My bias is towards the places where you could never be banned.
Oh wow. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. Well, the downside of nobody being in charge is there's nobody really to like promote it. You know, it's all like crowdsourced, you know, word of mouth promotion. So I think that there's plenty of room for both. But
you couldn't get like corporate advertising. Probably just get like individual sponsors maybe or something if you had a channel on there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a lot easier to become monetized on something like YouTube. Right. All right. Well, thanks very much for coming on, William, and educating me and everyone else about Andrew Tate and the manosphere and all that kind of stuff.
My favorite topics. Really, they are.
Where can people contact you, follow you, support you?
Oh yeah. So what I wanted to say was, so if you follow my Instagram page, you'll see it's linked to the club I work at. And so if you want to talk to me in person, I would say come to the club, Dancers Show Club in Indianapolis. And if you're watching this video and you're interested in talking to me in person or and seeing some girls, I mean, we'd love to have you there.
Okay, fantastic. And do you get a cut?
You know, I find a ways to make money there. Yeah.
Okay. All right, it's in Indianapolis.
Yeah, so if you follow my Instagram, it links directly to it, so you'll see it.
Okay. All right, I'll have to look you up next time I'm in Indy. Maybe not the club.
Oh, you know,
we'll have to check with the girlfriend on that front.
Yeah, see what she thinks.
Okay, and we'll put some links to you in the show notes. And thanks again for coming on.
Appreciate it.
All right, to our audience, thank you for watching this episode. Please do those things that you would do to any podcast that you support. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. Until next time, this has been David Medley and William Suttana for Proof of Pod.
Stacking the blocks, yeah, we flipping. Crypto coins, we ain't slipping. Digital gold got me tripping. Just signed a deal with that Satoshi script, man. Proof of Pod, tech on the rise. Blockchain moves, yeah, we wise. Huddle tight, watch it multiply. Crypto life, can't deny.